Imagine.
Imagine students excited about reading the Bible.
Imagine classical doctrine and new theology brought to light.
Imagine scripture that's actually relevant to today's youth. What?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have become aware of the increasing problem in our churches today, the predominance of biblical illiteracy.
That's right, Charlene. Through our conversations with students and adults from all across this great nation of ours, and even in our own churches, we are shocked to discover just how many people can't tell you who Mesoseth was or what the difference is between an Ammonite and a Jebusite.
Yeah, much less where Ur of the Chaldeans was located.
Well, can you?
No.
And that's our point. We can't have this go on.
We have developed a new solution, a new translation of the Bible, written for students, by students.
That's right. We call it the FUBU version.
For us, by us.
We've updated the language and made some of the stories a little bit more relevant and taken out all the boring stuff.
And of course, we made it gender inclusive.
For your education and spiritual betterment, we now like to present the Bible according to the 7th grader.
In the beginning.
What is that?
I thought it'd make things more dramatic.
Can we move things on, please? Thank you. In the beginning, there was... Well, there wasn't much of anything.
Right, just God.
Until God spoke.
Let there be.
And there was everything. Light and dark, night and day. The heavens and the earth, land and sea, sun and moon, fruit and fauna, beast and bird, Nick and Jessica.
And it was all good.
But then God created man.
That's right. Heaven held a holy huddle.
Let
us
make
man
in
our
image
according
to
our
likeness
and
let
them
rule.
A rule.
And it was very good.
But it wasn't great.
What do you mean? What's not so great about this?
No suitable helper could be found for man.
So God made man fall asleep, performed an outpatient surgery,
and perfected his previous design, thus creating woman.
I'm not so sure he perfected.
Of course he did. Just look at me.
All right, you got me.
But soon, newlyweds turned into Temptation Island.
Okay, God told man and woman they could eat anything except the magical apple.
Right, but the wicked queen disguised herself like a snake and convinced the woman that if she ate the fruit, she would become like God. So she ate.
Then she brought the fruit to man,
who questioned her for a moment. Like so many men, his mind was overcome by his stomach, and he ate the fruit too.
Thus revealing that they were both naked.
Oh.
What's the show rated? This was for families.
Could you move, please?
And yada, 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 sin entered the world.
Did you just yada, yada the fall?
Yeah, well, we don't want to deal with all the negativity.
Oh, okay.
So moving on, the Lord said to Noah, build me an ark.
Ark?
Like I said, Lord said to Noah, build me an ark.
Ark.
Make it out of hickory bark.
Barky, children of the Lord.
And so he did, and sailed through a flood.
I'm the king of the world.
And so he was, because no one could doggy paddle for that long.
And thus we end Genesis.
End?
I thought we'd just cover the rest in sidebars.
Okay.
There's a story of a guy named Abraham who had two sons named Ishmael and Isaac. Isaac was the favorite son of his mother, so he got the blessings.
Now we continue with a guy named Isaac who grew up and had two sons of his own. Esau, who should have been the birthright, but Jacob made it his own.
So we have Abraham
and Isaac and Jacob, who each
played a very important part in the history of Israel. So we
call them all the patriarchs. The patriarchs. The patriarchs. So we call them all three the patriarchs.
Yeah. And Jacob had a son named Donny Osmond, and they all lived happily ever after in Egypt.
Anyway, a little boy was born, put in a basket in a river, and became the prince of Egypt.
And one day he stumbled across a fiery furnace.
And an angel told him to go to King Tut and tell him to let my people go.
So he did.
And he did.
And Moses, parted the sea and wrote the 10 Commandments.
But in addition to those 10, they decided to add about 600 more.
And some of them were actually pretty funny. Like the one that tells them where to relieve themselves while they're in camp, because when God comes through, he doesn't want to step in anything.
And that's why they call that book Deuteronomy. Then Moses led everyone to the Palestine.
Promised land.
That's what I said. A land full of RC Cola and moon pies. Well, I don't care much for milk and honey.
And when they needed a place to live, they marched around the city. They huffed and they puffed and they blew a bunch of trumpets and the walls came down.
So, see, there's nothing wrong with being in the band. We're not nerds. We're cool.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Now, once the people had settled down, a group of leaders rose among them, and they were called the judges.
Yeah, but they were way more awesome than like the Supreme Court. The best guy was this not gay guy. The best was this guy, Samson. He was like Arnold Schwarzenegger on steroids, or like when he was on steroids. I mean, forget the Terminator. He was the Philistinator or something.
But then they decided to get a king.
So they got Saul, and he went to war.
This time, though, the band couldn't help because there was like a giant on the rival team.
But then came along this kid named David the Menace.
Hey, Mr. King Saul.
And little David took his official Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot range model air rifle and shot the giant right between his eyes.
I guess I did shoot his eye out.
So they made him king.
Then he hooked up with this cheeky net named Bathsheba, who was taking a bath of all things. Get it? Bathsheba? Taking a bath? Where did they come up with all this stuff?
Anyways, so they had a son named Solomon who was hot and like the smartest guy alive. Picture the best qualities of Justin and the Microsoft guy put together in one package. Woo!
His proverbs are known the world over. Like, if you can't be with the one you love, love the one you're with.
And life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
A pity save keeps the doctor away.
And so on.
But after Solomon, things didn't go so well.
The kingdom split over worship styles.
A bunch of preachers called prophets preached and prophetized about stuff that doesn't make sense, and they got way too charismatic.
And then not much happened for a while.
Until,
on a silent night,
holy night,
in a little town of Bethlehem,
away in a manger,
unto us a child was born.
Hark the herald angels sing.
Oh, come all ye faithful. So, Jesus entered the world.
Right. And at this culmination of everything, although we're not real sure what all the other stuff has to do with Jesus.
But here we are. Now, Jesus' first miracle was at a wedding, where he turned water into wine. Though, I'm sure it was probably just grape juice.
Actually, I think it's been exogenetically proven to have been Welch's.
Soon, people began following Jesus everywhere. 12 guys in particular.
I would have too. I love Welch's. What? So anyway, there was Matthew and James and Peter, Paul and Mary, and George, Ringo, and John, but he stopped talking to Paul. Then there was Alvin, Simon, Theodore, and a few others I don't remember.
Now, Jesus did some incredible things.
He healed the sick, raised the dead, fed 500,000, and even walked on water.
He did it. He also told some really cool stories.
Yeah, this one's my favorite. There was a man who had 2 sons, but one of them was really anxious to get out of the house, so his dad gave him his entire college fund. So he left out to travel the world. When he was out shopping one day, he found this huge pearl for sale and spent all his money on it. But then he found a treasure in a field and sold the pearl to buy the field. After he dug the treasure up, he was attacked and robbed and left for dead on the side of the road. But a good samurai came and helped him. Once he got back on his feet, he still didn't have any money. He was just hanging out at the gas station one day with a lot of other guys looking for work when this guy drove up who had been hiring people all day. And even though it was close to 5, hired him and paid him for the whole day. He used the money to help himself get home where he planned to go to all the people who owed his dad money and tell him not to worry about it so they would tell his dad what a great guy he was. But before he could, his dad ran out to greet him and told him that he was to get married to 10 maidens, but when he went to pick them up, 5 were gone because the batteries ran out in their flashlight. And then they had a huge potluck dinner that didn't go so great because someone put new Welch's in old Welch's bottles, which evidently isn't a good thing to do.
Now, the one thing that Jesus kept telling everyone was that he had to be about his Father's work. But evidently, the carpentry business wasn't doing so good because he kept just traveling around and hanging out with his friends.
So, eventually, he ended up in Jerusalem, so tired that he rode an El Camino into the city.
That means the donkey.
There were some people who really didn't like Jesus and made a plan with Judas.
Oh yeah, Judas.
Oh, what about Judas?
That's one of the ones I forgot.
One of what?
You know, when I was naming all the guys that Jesus hung out with.
Oh, right.
Anyways, these people paid Judas to tell them who Jesus was, which I really don't understand. I mean, if he was so popular and they hated him so much, why didn't they just know who he was?
Well, maybe we'll never know, but can we, finish up here?
Yeah, sorry. Jesus figured out what they were up to, so he called his posse together one last time, and they had the Lord's Supper.
Then he went to a prayer garden. Well, to pray, where everybody fell asleep.
And Judas showed up.
And yada, 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 we celebrate Easter.
Not wanting to focus on the negative again?
No, I'm just trying to move things along. Besides, I'm sure everyone saw the movie. Now, after Jesus was gone, the church had some tough times getting started.
More and more people were joining, but Christianity was still pretty unpopular.
So to encourage all the churches, Paul spent a good time traveling around to see them and writing emails to them whenever he couldn't drop by.
He spent a great deal of time writing discussions such as topics as justification, sanctification, pneumatomology, Christology, unity, spiritual gifts, church organization, and the Eucharist.
But honestly, we're not sure what all that is about, so we've left most of it out.
A few other people wrote some stuff too, but we're equal opportunity and thought if we were going to leave out Paul's stuff, why bother with any of the rest? Well, I guess we're done.
Are you sure?
Well, let's see. We covered creation.
We mentioned the flood.
We got the patriarchs.
We blew through the judges and kings.
Pop's got shout out.
We hit the highlights of Jesus.
And I yada yada the rest.
That leaves early churches and the letters, and we've left most of that out.
So that's it, right?
Wait a minute, guys. I just remembered something.
Oh, no.
You don't mean
Revelation.
Gosh, look at the time.
Let's just go to the life application.
Good thinking. That's the whole point anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, we've added a whole section just for life application for students.
And it goes a little something like this.
Obey God.
Honor your mother and father.
Relieve yourself outside of camp.
Don't drink or do drugs.
True love waits.
And I'll see you at the pole. Well, that's all we got.
He's right, folks. We spent enough of your time with this.
Yeah, and we hope it's been beneficial for you.
I guess since we spent this time together, you don't really need a copy of the FUBU version of the Bible.
Yeah, let's be honest. You can just make it up yourself anyway.
But wouldn't it be great if we could, have talks about some of the other stuff?
Like what?
Well, wouldn't it be great if we could actually get the details and know what happened and why it happened?
But that's what we're trying to avoid. No one really cares about that stuff anyway. They just want quick answers to sound bites, and that's what we're trying to provide.
Yeah, but imagine if it was different. Imagine if people actually cared.
You mean, imagine if we actually spent time finding out all the cool stuff that actually happened in the Bible?
Yeah. Imagine if people remembered what a great story it is.
No hidden agendas.
No bland presentations.
No contrived answers.
No cheesy illustrations.
Just what's real.
Just what's true. Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that.
After that generation passed away, another generation arose after them who did not know the Lord, nor yet the work he had done. Imagine that.